Hey team, right now a February freeze is bearing down on millions of Americans. Multiple shots of Arctic air continue working into the eastern United States, bringing with them continued chances for snow. Winter is absolutely not finished with us. We're locked in the freezer. But here's what they're not telling you. The pattern is about to flip. Not this week, not next week, but around 10 days from now, something is going to change. The massive ridge that's been parked over the western United States, keeping them mild and dry, is going to shift east. And when it does, a trough is going to develop out west. Cold air is going to dive out of Canada into the Rockies and Plains. And that setup, that classic configuration, is what produces Colorado lows. The kind of storms that can bring blizzard conditions to the plains and severe weather to the south. The kind of storms that change everything. The clippers we're dealing with now are just appetizers. The main course is still being prepared. If you're wondering why this winter feels relentless, why the cold won't break, why every forecast shows more snow, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because what I'm about to explain will show you why the next 10 days are critical and why the pattern shift coming after that could be even more dangerous than what we're experiencing now. Drop a comment with where you're watching from, your current temperature, and whether you're ready for this winter to finally end. Let's start with where we are right now, because the cold that's in place is absolutely historic. This morning, temperatures dropped into the single digits as far south as South Carolina. Let that sink in for a moment. Single digits in South Carolina. Freezing temperatures extended all the way down to the Gulf Coast, just inland from Fort Myers and over Lake Okeechobee. Florida is under freeze warnings, not frost advisories, freeze warnings, the kind of alerts you expect in Minnesota, not the Sunshine State. It was actually warmer in St. Louis this morning than it was in Orlando. The weather definitely has a mind of its own sometimes. But this isn't random chaos. This is the result of a pattern that has locked in place and refuses to budge. The snowpack from recent storms is visible on satellite imagery, stretching from Maine and eastern Canada all the way down into the Piedmont of the Carolinas. We still have snow on the ground in the Delta region of Mississippi, Arkansas, and over into Tennessee. This is February living up to its reputation, and I'm starting to understand why Phil thinks winter has 6 more weeks left in the tank. But here's what makes this situation different from typical winter cold snaps. The persistence. Cold air masses usually move through in waves. You get a few days of bitter cold, then a moderation, then another shot of cold. It's a rhythm, a cycle. The atmosphere oscillates between extremes. That's not what's happening now. The cold is continuous. Each wave reinforces the previous one before temperatures have a chance to recover. The snow on the ground acts like a refrigerator, reflecting sunlight instead of absorbing it, keeping temperatures suppressed even on sunny days. And the jet stream, that river of air high in the atmosphere that normally flows in relatively smooth waves, is stuck in a configuration that keeps funneling Arctic air southward. The big dip in the jet stream over the eastern United States represents a pocket of cold air that should have moved on by now. But it hasn't. It's sitting there, persistent, stubborn, relentless. Energy is riding along the southern edge of that cold air, and that's what's producing the snow chances we're going to talk about. But the bigger story is the pattern itself, why it formed, why it's persisting, and most importantly, why it's about to change in a way that could make the next storm even more significant than anything we've seen so far. Let me break down what's coming over the next week, because we've got multiple systems to track. The pattern is set up for persistent cold with clipper after clipper diving out of Canada and bringing snow chances to different parts of the country. The first system is already in motion. Another piece of energy is diving down out of the north by the middle of this week, and snow chances are trending upward from where they were 24 hours ago. This is important because when snow chances increase in the short-term forecast, it means the models are converging on a solution. It means confidence is growing that accumulating snow is likely. Tuesday afternoon, rain will be falling from parts of Tennessee down into Mississippi, Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas, where it won't be frozen, but further north into the Ohio Valley. If you're watching from southern Indiana, Louisville, or Cincinnati, some light snow showers are going to work in for your Tuesday afternoon. This system will produce accumulating snow as it tracks through. Indianapolis could see an inch or so. Cincinnati is looking at potentially 2 inches at the high end. Louisville is in a similar range. Charleston, West Virginia is in the impact zone. The Interstate 64 corridor from Louisville through Charleston could see messy travel conditions during the Tuesday evening commute. This is the kind of sneaky system that catches people off guard because it's not a major blizzard, but 2 inches of snow during rush hour absolutely creates problems. Roads get slick, visibility drops, accidents pile up. And in regions that have already dealt with multiple winter storms, snow removal resources are stretched thin. The system continues tracking east and reaches the mid-Atlantic by Wednesday. Pittsburgh gets into the snow Wednesday morning. Washington, D.C. and Baltimore could see a coating to around a ½ inch. The Delmarva and Chesapeake region are in the fringe of this system. These aren't big numbers, but in a region that struggles with any winter weather, even modest accumulations create chaos. Now, here's where things get interesting for the Southeast. This system eventually works eastward, and I think it definitely starts as rain for the Carolinas and Virginia, but then it tries to crank up into more of a coastal feature. And the longer that precipitation hangs around, the more time it gives cold air to catch up from the north. By Wednesday night, cold air catches up, and you could see a band of snow from the Triad over towards Raleigh into southern Virginia. Some snow showers could reach as far south as Charlotte by Thursday morning before clearing out. This would not be a big deal in terms of accumulation, but it's something to watch. The European ensembles show a decent chance of at least an inch of snowfall from the mountains into the Piedmont of North Carolina and southeastern Virginia, including the Virginia Beach, Elizabeth City, and Raleigh corridor. The mesoscale models are starting to catch this as well, showing scattered snow showers for Tuesday afternoon into the Ohio Valley, rain further south, then the cold air catching up and potentially changing that rain over to snow or producing light snow showers from Tennessee into parts of the Piedmont of North Carolina by overnight Wednesday into Thursday. But wait, there's more. Before that system even clears out, the next system is already showing up on the map, and this one could be bigger for parts of the Midwest and Northeast. By Friday, a much stronger shot of the polar vortex is going to dive down from the Hudson Bay region of Canada. This is a stout clipper with almost multiple parts to it, a leading wave followed by a main wave that's going to be driven by a jet streak. That's a lot of energy that could produce significant snow. Friday morning brings the first round through parts of Michigan, Ohio, and into the interior Northeast. Snow showers could reach as far south as Washington, D.C. and Baltimore. Then comes a more substantial piece of energy that we'll need to watch closely. The European ensembles show much higher snow chances by the end of the week from Michigan into parts of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and into the Northeast. This is the big theme right now. We've got a very northern stream-dominated pattern, where the southern jet has kind of died off after our big storm this past weekend. Now it's just clippers diving down into the northeastern United States, one after another. Each one brings the chance for snow, but more importantly, they're bringing wave after wave of cold air. Looking at temperature anomalies, the cold just keeps coming. Thursday afternoon, we're still well below average, fighting to melt the snow that just fell. Another shot arrives by the weekend. The train of cold air shows no signs of stopping for at least the next week. This is the pattern that wears people down. It's not the individual storms that break you, it's the relentlessness. The fact that there's no break, no warm-up, no relief. Just cold and snow and more snow, day after day, week after week. Infrastructure starts to fail under this kind of sustained stress. Power grids strain, natural gas supplies dwindle, road salt runs out, snow removal budgets get exhausted, and people get tired. Tired of shoveling, tired of scraping ice, tired of winter that won't end. But here's what you need to understand. This Clipper Parade, as exhausting as it is not the main event. These are warm-up acts, because around 10 days from now, the pattern is going to flip. And when it does, we could be looking at something much more significant. Here's where I see potential change on the horizon. Around 10 days from now, the pattern shows signs of flipping. Ridging starts to kick back into the eastern United States, while a trough develops out west. This is the classic setup for a major storm system. What happens is you get a lot of cold air diving out west and a lot of lift developing across the plains. A classic Colorado low is likely to get going right around 10 days from now. With warm air surging out in front of it, this could spell trouble in terms of a more powerful storm. Way too soon for specifics, but this is what I've got my eye on for our next big weather story after the current cold stretch plays out. Could this system have blizzard potential in the plains? Absolutely, it could. Could it have severe weather potential further south? That's definitely on the table. This is the first signal I'm seeing for potential severe weather as we approach mid-February. The pattern is setting up for a clash between Arctic Arctic air and returning warmth, and that collision zone is where significant weather develops. Let me explain why this pattern flip is so significant. Right now, we have a ridge over the western United States and a trough over the eastern United States. The ridge is an area of high pressure and sinking air. It brings clear skies and mild temperatures. The trough is an area of low pressure and rising air. It brings clouds, precipitation, and cold temperatures. This configuration has been locked in place for weeks, but atmospheric patterns don't stay locked forever. Eventually, something breaks. The ridge weakens. The trough fills in, and the pattern flips. When the ridge moves east and the trough moves west, everything changes. The cold air that's been bottled up in Canada suddenly has a pathway into the central United States, but instead of diving into the east coast where it's been going, it dives into the Rockies and plains. And when Arctic air collides with the warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico over the central plains, you get explosive storm development. You get Colorado lows, named for the region where they typically form. These are the storms that can produce blizzard conditions with heavy snow and high winds. These are the storms that can generate severe thunderstorms and tornadoes on their warm side. These are the storms that make headlines and shut down entire regions. Let me walk you through what happens when a Colorado low develops, because understanding the mechanism helps you understand why these storms are so dangerous. It starts with cold air diving out of Canada into the Rockies. The mountains act like a ramp, forcing the air to rise. As it rises, it cools and compresses. When it reaches the lee side of the mountains, the eastern slopes, it descends rapidly. This descending air creates an area of low pressure at the surface. Meanwhile, warm, moist air from the Gulf of Mexico is streaming northward across Texas and Oklahoma. This warm air collides with the cold air descending from the Rockies. The temperature contrast creates instability. The atmosphere becomes loaded with potential energy. A low-pressure system organizes at the boundary between the cold and warm air. The jet stream overhead provides the upper-level support needed for the system to intensify, and once it starts intensifying, it can do so rapidly. On the cold side of the system, you get heavy snow, not the light, fluffy snow of clipper systems. Heavy, wet snow that accumulates quickly and is difficult to move. Wind speeds increase as the pressure gradient tightens. Visibility drops to near zero in blowing snow. This is blizzard territory. On the warm side of the system, you get severe thunderstorms. The warm, moist air is unstable. It rises rapidly, forming towering cumulonimbus clouds. These storms can produce large hail, damaging winds, and tornadoes. In February, severe weather is less common than in spring, but it's not unheard of. And when it happens, it often catches people off guard. The track of a Colorado low determines who gets what. If it tracks through Kansas and Nebraska, the heavy snow falls across the central plains. If it tracks further north through South Dakota, the snow shifts north as well. If it tracks further south through Oklahoma, the severe weather threat increases for Texas and Arkansas. Right now, 10 days out, we can't pinpoint the exact track, but we can see the pattern setting up. We can see the ingredients coming together, and we can warn people that something significant might be on the way. Here's the part that should concern people in the South. This is the first signal I'm seeing for potential severe weather as we approach mid-February. The pattern is setting up for a clash between Arctic air and returning warmth, and that collision zone is where significant weather develops. We've been so focused on snow and cold for the past month that the idea of severe thunderstorms seems almost absurd, but that's exactly when severe weather can be most dangerous. When people aren't expecting it, when they're not prepared for it. The warm air surging out in front of the Colorado low will bring temperatures into the 60s and 70s across Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. After weeks of cold, that warmth will feel amazing. People will open windows, they'll go outside, they'll let their guard down, but that warm air is unstable. It's loaded with moisture from the Gulf, and when the cold front associated with the Colorado low comes crashing through, that instability will be released. Thunderstorms will fire along the front, and some of those storms could be severe. The ingredients for severe weather are straightforward: instability, moisture, lift, and wind shear. The warm air provides instability and moisture. The cold front provides lift, and the jet stream overhead provides wind shear. When all four ingredients come together, you get severe thunderstorms. The specific threats depend on the exact setup. If wind shear is strong, tornadoes become possible. If instability is extreme, large hail becomes likely. If the storms organize into a line, damaging straight-line winds become the primary concern. It's too early to say which threats will materialize, but it's not too early to say that people in the South need to start paying attention, because after a month of winter weather, a severe weather outbreak in mid-February would catch a lot of people unprepared. The timing of this pattern flip, around 10 days from now, puts us in the February 10th-12th time frame. That's significant for several reasons. First, it's after the current Clipper parade has exhausted itself. The northern stream pattern that's been dominant will have run its course. The atmosphere will be ready for something different. Second, it's at a time when the southern jet stream is starting to reactivate. We've had a very northern stream dominated pattern where the southern jet has kind of died off. But as we move into mid-February, the southern branch of the jet stream typically becomes more active, and when the southern and northern branches phase together, you get powerful storms. Third, it's at a time when daylight is increasing and solar heating is becoming more significant. The sun angle is higher, days are longer. That extra heating adds energy to the atmosphere, making it more unstable and more capable of producing severe weather. And fourth, it's at a time when people are exhausted from winter, when snow removal budgets are depleted, when road salt supplies are low, when heating bills have been high for weeks, when one more major storm could push communities past their breaking point. The cumulative impact of repeated winter weather events is something that doesn't show up in forecast models, but it's real, and it matters, because communities that could handle one major storm struggle when they get hit by storm after storm with no time to recover in between. Let me be practical about what you need to do to prepare for what's coming, because we're in a transition period. The next week brings more clippers, more cold, more snow, but after that, the pattern changes, and you need to be ready for both phases. For the Ohio Valley and Northeast, the next week is about managing the Clipper parade. Each system brings a few inches of snow, not enough to be catastrophic individually, but enough to be disruptive. And when they come one after another, the impacts compound. Make sure you have snow removal equipment ready. Stock up on ice melt. Keep your gas tank full. Have emergency supplies in your car. These are the basics, but they matter when you're dealing with repeated winter weather events. For the plains and Midwest, start watching the 10-day forecast closely. If the Colorado low materializes as the pattern suggests, you could be looking at a major winter storm. Blizzard conditions are possible. Travel could become impossible. Power outages could occur. Now is the time to prepare, not when the storm is 24 hours away. Stock up on food and water. Make sure you have backup heat sources. Charge all your devices. Check on elderly neighbors who might need help. For the South, don't let your guard down just because temperatures are going to warm up. That warmth is temporary, and it comes with the potential for severe weather. Make sure you have a way to receive weather warnings. Know where your safe place is. Have a plan for what you'll do if severe weather threatens. And for everyone, understand that we're in a pattern transition. The next 10 days are critical. The clippers will continue. The cold will persist, but after that, something bigger might be brewing, and the more prepared you are, the better you'll handle whatever comes. As we close, I want to give you the bigger picture, because what's happening over the next 10 days is not just about individual storms. It's about a pattern that's finally going to break. For now, cold air remains the dominant story. Below average temperatures keep rolling in through the middle of the week and then again by the weekend. We're going to be fighting to melt that snowpack for days. But by about 10 days from now, could we finally get our first taste of spring? I think it's absolutely on the table. So maybe the groundhog is right about the next week, but I'm not entirely sold that we're going to have true winter weather straight through the next 6 weeks. There are signs that warmer air could return by the middle of February, at least for a while. But here's the thing about pattern breaks. They don't happen smoothly. The atmosphere doesn't gently transition from one state to another. It lurches, it overcorrects, and in the transition zone, you get extreme weather. That's what we're looking at around 10 days from now. The pattern is going to flip. The ridge is going to move east. The trough is going to move west. And in that transition, we could see a major storm develop. The clippers we're dealing with now are manageable. Annoying, yes. Disruptive, certainly, but manageable. The Colorado low that might develop in 10 days is a different beast entirely. That's the kind of storm that makes headlines, that shuts down interstates, that causes widespread power outages, that generates severe weather on its warm side. We don't know yet if it will happen. The pattern is still 10 days away. A lot can change, but the signal is there. The ingredients are coming together, and everyone from the Rockies to the East Coast needs to be paying attention. Because this winter has been relentless, and it's not done with us yet, the Clippers will continue through next week. The cold will persist, and then around February 10th to 12th, the pattern flips. And what comes after that could be the storm of the season. Stay warm, stay safe, stay informed, and most importantly, stay prepared, because the next 10 days are going to be critical. And what comes after that could change everything. The countdown has begun, the pattern is shifting, and winter 2026 is about to show us what it's really capable of.